This is News Center at 6.
Their stories are gut-wrenching. 3 Mainers, former members of the military, who all say they were sexually assaulted by superiors while in the service. Tonight, as she continues her special report, News Center's Kathleen Shannon looks at what the military, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and Congress are doing to address the issue and how the 3 Mainers are benefiting from the changes.
The last time we went camping, what did we do, 4 nights? Like, I can't have anyone behind me, hovering over me. I can't be in crowds anymore.
Despite their differences in age and military training,
I don't trust anyone. I still don't.
The trauma, immediate and lifelong, of being assaulted by a superior in the military is strikingly similar.
I didn't want to take and be in a group of people and smell Dracar Noir or a man's cologne and totally wig out.
Not an uncommon experience, or not an uncommon situation for us to see here.
Kathy Rusin is the military sexual trauma, or MST, coordinator at Togus Veterans Hospital in Augusta.
Military sexual trauma is also often about power, punishment. Sometimes, particularly with men, it's used as a threat to control someone or to single them out.
Rusin likens the effect to PTSD.
In treatment, we work to help people confront those triggers and cues without feeling overwhelmed or unable to handle them.
Rusin and the MST program are part of a system-wide effort by the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs to not only address sexual assault in the military, but eradicate it. According to Cynthia O. Smith, spokesperson for the Department of Defense, quote, DOD has a zero-tolerance policy on sexual assault. Over the past 2 years, DOD has affirmed its commitment to preventing and effectively responding to sexual assault. The DOD established the Sexual Assault Response and Prevention Program in 2005 with 300 staff members. Smith says there are now 3,000. They provide reporting, therapeutic, and investigative services on every military base and installation used by American forces. A far cry from the military of 1970, when Barry Watson was a Marine corporal serving the first of 2 tours in Vietnam. A lieutenant attacked him when he was alone in a bunker.
He had me around my neck like this and unbuckled my pants and everything and yanked them down and tried to rape me.
Watson says there was no training, no talk of sexual assault or harassment at the time. He feared no one would believe him. He feared retaliation, so he kept it to himself.
In our society, it challenges many gender assumptions about men not being victims, and it's still more taboo. We have come a long way in openly discussing female rape. We're just beginning to even talk about publicly male sexual trauma.
The new efforts by the DOD, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and Congress prompted Watson to come forward and seek treatment for the first time in 31 years.
If the men in the service would start coming forward, you're going to find that there's a lot that's gone on in the military that isn't reported.
And by coming forward, that might change?
That may change things. It'll say, yes, don't mess with me anymore, because we're protected by the laws, and we're supposed to all live by them.
Efforts are underway to strengthen the laws that protect service people who protect us. Senator Susan Collins is pushing legislation that mandates confidentiality, legal representation, and expedited transfers to different units for active service members who report sexual trauma.
Today we will change that with our vote.
And Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, who sits on the House Armed Services Committee, is working on legislation that would make it easier for service members to get benefits to cover the lifelong physical and psychological problems that can result from sexual trauma.
We've changed the reporting requirements around PTSD so that it's much easier for someone who suffers that trauma and who has a medical diagnosis to get the benefits that they deserve, so they can get the counseling in their life so that they can move forward. Well, we're not doing that with victims of military sexual trauma.
There's, so many things that you have.
Kathy Rusin's unit at Togus has been developing special programs to help MST victims.
We have a post-traumatic stress disorder, IOP, intensive outpatient program that many veterans attend. We also have individual counseling with therapists, and we're increasing the group therapy that we offer.
I couldn't say anything better about the VA. They are the most amazing place. People, everything about it.
Jennifer Norris served as a communications specialist with the Maine Air National Guard in 1997. Within the space of 2 years, she says she was attacked by 3 different superiors, including her recruiter, who she says drugged and raped her. He left the Guard. The 2 other men were court-martialed and took plea agreements. Norris took a medical discharge.
I see a counselor and I see a psychiatrist. This is what they said to me, that what you went through was a lot harder than what combat PTSD is, because the people who perpetrated you were the people you were supposed to trust.
The Maine Air National Guard has instituted all of the protocols now required by the DoD. Lieutenant Colonel Deborah Kelly says, quote, "The Maine National Guard takes this issue very seriously. We have a robust sexual assault prevention and response program since 2006 with 45 trained victim advocates. The program allows victims to control whether their reports stay confidential or initiates an investigation and gives them support resources as long as they need them."
It would be nice to think that it doesn't happen.
Amy says she was raped in 1987 by a petty officer while she was serving overseas with the Navy. The Navy repeatedly said she did not provide sufficient evidence, so the officer was never prosecuted. She was discharged, but without MST-related benefits. That is until 2009, 22 years after the rape, when she was referred to a military sexual trauma specialist who was finally able to get the military to acknowledge that she had been raped. Amy now has full benefits and full disability. She is remarried and is raising a daughter.
I want people to not be afraid anymore. Our government has a nasty habit of lying, denying, and acting surprised, culpable liability, so that they don't have to take and acknowledge what happens. There's people's careers on the line.
I think that the military would say that they think they're making progress, and we're just saying to them, look, we have to keep pushing on this because you're not making progress fast enough.
Now, the Senate Armed Services Committee passed Senator Collins' bill to aid active duty service members. That will now move through the House. And Kathy, Congresswoman Pingree's bill to make it easier for veterans to get MST benefits is making its way through Congress. But the question is the VA taking action on its own?
The VA, they are. Congresswoman Pingree met with the Undersecretary of Veterans Affairs, General Allison Hickey, just 2 weeks ago. And then this week, Hickey told Pingree that she has ordered all VA employees to ease the standards of proof for veterans seeking service-related disability and treatment related to MST. Hickey says that she told employees, quote, that they should not expect to see traditional evidence, but rather rely on behavioral changes like PTSD-like symptoms and vets' descriptions of how the attacks have affected them. Hickey is encouraging vets to come forward and seek the treatment they need or reapply if they have been denied MST benefits in the past.
Thanks, Kathy, and hats off to those men and women for having the guts to talk about this openly.
Very courageous.
That's not easy to do. Now, if you're a member of the armed services and have been sexually assaulted or harassed, the Department of Defense offers a confidential crisis service. You can call 877-995-5247 from anywhere in the United States. We also have a link to the SAFE helpline on our website. And Congresswoman Pingree urges veterans who would like help applying or reapplying for MST benefits to call her Portland office.